right, folks. Welcome to Hard Hat Conversation. Today is January the 26th, 2026. I'm your host, Richard, and I'm stationed here in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio. Um, it's a Monday evening. Just got off work. Haven't been on in a while. Just been, working and doing things. So, you know how life is, just got to keep on moving and get in where you fit in. So over the weekend, well, all during last week I was busy, but over the weekend I was just thinking, should I talk about this Minnesota thing? You know, I, you know, I just don't understand it in certain parts. In some parts I do understand, but certain parts I really don't understand. And I want to get into that real quick, folks, about uh, the Minnesota thing and I'm just going to try to break it down just a little bit on some of the stuff that's going on. Not the whole picture, but some of the picture, especially with the shooting of the guy. I forgot his name. Uh, Let me give you a little history lesson real quick, folks. Let me go to my notes, folks. You know I like to go to my notes if you listen. I got written down here a little bit about. Bear with me, folks. I'm going to go back in time for a few minutes and ride with me because you're gonna get to where I'm coming from. Hopefully, whether you agree or not, don't forget to like, subscribe, and make a big old comment. Thank you. Um, I want to start at slavery time. There was a black man named Nat Turner. If you know your history, you heard of him. They probably talked about it in school for a few minutes. He was born in 1800 and he died 1831. So he died at 31 years old. He was a very young man, just like this young man that just died. I think he was 37, something like that. He was a nurse in the ER. Um, Born 1800 and died 1831. 31 years old. Didn't live long at all. And this was during the slavery time, of course. He was in Virginia. And he rebelled against slavery. So what he did was he got some black folks together, some slaves, and they killed around about estimated around 50 white people in Virginia because they hated slavery. And do you blame them? I would hate slavery too. I would want to be somebody else's slave in that condition as they are at that time. But here's another thing. They caught up with him, of course, and they killed him at the age of 31. So he was trying to fight violence with violence. The next person I want to talk about, keep that in mind, folks, violence. Fighting fire with fire. You heard of that phrase, right? I know some of you disagree with it, that you have to fight fire with fire, but we'll get into that. John Brown, white man, born the same year as Nat Turner, 1800, and he died 1859. He lived a little bit longer, another 28 years, matter of fact. Um, he was an abolitionist. That was a group that those that don't know, was a group made up of whites and blacks uh, that wanted to get rid of slavery. But he was a preacher, I think, also as well. And he got some men together, black and white, and they did a raid on Harper's Ferry. It was real famous, and they captured him, and then they killed him in 1859. Another one that used violence. And I understand, John Brown, violence, because you wouldn't want to be living in those type of conditions uh, as a slave. My next person I'm gonna go to is Gandhi. If you ever heard of Gandhi, he he was an Indian guy in India. He was a lawyer. Went to the British schools where British was like the America superpower back then. They had all that over there, India, all over in that area. You know, Hong Kong, all that stuff. British was the big boys. That little island was ruling a lot of those nations for a long time, folks. We tend to forget that, you know. A lot of people don't want to teach that, but it's the truth, you know. It's easy to tell the truth right now, but you don't want to tell your truth, what happened in the past. Can't have it both ways, folks. In order to tell the whole truth, nothing but the whole truth. Ain't that what they say when they put your hand on the Bible when you're in court? Um, so Gandhi was born in 1869. So he was born after these Nat Turner and John Brown died. 1869, folks. It's right after the Civil War as well. Um, so he was came of age and he was fighting against the British rule. He used their laws against them. He went to court, non-violence, and everything. So remember, folks, the other two use violence to try to get what they want done. And some say it's a just cause. And like I said, I understand that. And I wish it didn't happen, you know, but, it, you know, stuff happens. So he used the non-rule of non-violence. He was the first one that did that in these type of situations. Remember, he was born 1869. He also died in 1948, folks. Lived a long time. Now, he was fighting the British government, a little small man that was a lawyer, but you know what he did? He used their own words against them, folks, nonviolent. He marched, he was hand in hand, even though the Muslims and the Hindus hated each other, he got them together because they was all in the same boat. Think about that, folks. They was all, even though they had different religions and different ideas, they were still Indian people, and they all was living in that one country. But you had this one place called Britain ruling them, and they said, "No, we want to run our own country. We're tired of you desegregating against us and treating us as second-class citizens in our own country." Blah blah blah. So he even got them together, even though there was some tension. They fought against each other and all this stuff, but at the end, they finally came together. And this small group of non-violence folks, toppled the great British government and ran them out of India. No missiles, no warships, no army, no none of that. And he ran them out of there because he was saying that it was unjust. He also threw a little bit of religion in there too, folks. We're gonna get to that, okay? Even though a lot of people don't want to hear that, but he did. He was a very spiritual man. So now I want to go next to Dr. Martin Luther King, which we all know. He just had a birthday a few weeks ago. For those who um, didn't know, we all know a lot of his history here in America because we had a situation here in America, just like they had in India, you know. And we had that situation back in the 1800s, but America wasn't ready for it yet. You know, they was making too much money, and they wasn't educated enough to understand that that black people was human beings, not their livestock. And the Indians and the Chinese and all other minorities, you know. But let's go. So Dr. King did the nonviolence. He got that from Gandhi, um, and it was working, and it did work, folks. You know, you're always going to have collateral damage when you change stuff, folks. They're always going to be. You hate to say this, but we're messed up people, folks. We're not perfect. There's always going to be death, collateral damage when you're trying to fight against something that's unjust. There's going to be incidents that stuff happens, even in peaceful marching. Dr. King and all marched, but people got killed, beaten, all kind of stuff, locked up in jail. Same way with Gandhi, and you see what happened to the two people that did the violence, Nat Turner and John Brown. So I gave you two examples of violence that try to change an unjust law, and I gave you two examples of nonviolence trying to change unjust laws. Which side do you think works more over a time period? The violence or the nonviolence? Okay, since this is hard hat conversation, I'm gonna play judge, even though I don't want to, but I'm gonna play judge. And you can play judge on what I just talked about. Like I said, like, scribe, and comment. I think the nonviolence, of course, does more than the violence because I'm getting to the Minnesota folks. Hold on to me. Hold on. I'm coming. You trying to win, and I have to say this word because that way you understand what I'm saying. You trying to win a war, not a battle. Okay, folks? Everybody can win a couple of skirmishes. When you fight at school, folks, you're gonna win some and lose some. That's fine. But you're trying to win a war. And what I mean by the word war, you trying to get something that's etched in stone, that's solid, that's going to stay and make some changes, whether you agree with it or not. Whether you agree with it or not. And I think, no, I know that the nonviolence, I feel the compassion. I understand very well, but we cannot have violence, folks. Even if you're not, I hate to use the word religion, but even if you believe in God, you cannot have violence. And even if you don't believe in God, you still cannot have violence. Violence only what? Begotten what? Violence. You throw a stick, they throw a stick. You throw a bigger bomb, they throw a bigger bomb. Sooner or later, ain't nobody else gonna be around. We're all gonna be gone. For what? Nothing. But with nonviolence, folks, you can have some type of diplomacy where you don't have to like a lot of the ways that the other person is doing, but you can live peacefully. We've been doing that for a while. We're always gonna have little skirmishes and stuff, but we keep them to a bare minimum because we're not perfect. We're in a broken world, folks. This whole world is messed up in all kind of ways. And I don't want to get into that, folks, because I don't want to lose my sight on Minnesota. We know about it. There's too many poor and only a handful of rich. That's crazy, folks. But we don't want to talk about that right now. We'll do that another day. We know that don't make sense. But it makes sense to the people that got everything right, folks. But anyway, and who says that you wouldn't do the same thing they doing if you had that chance? I'm just keeping it real, folks. It's hard at conversation. Like, subscribe, and comment if you agree or disagree. So I just gave you two examples. Don't lose the thought, folks. Two people with violence against something that's unjust, and two people non-violence against something that's unjust. So, and I said that the non-violence works better because in the long run you're going to get some laws changed, and you're gonna have something etched in stone that's going to stay for a long time, generation to generation. Now, what you do with it is a different story. I can give you all of this, but what you make of it is up to you. And that's the problem we have in Minnesota right now. We got the right to protest. A lot of people died for that, to keep that going on in this country. Because a lot of countries like Mexico, Venezuela, Russia, uh, 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 Iran, and some countries even in Africa and all over the world, there's a lot of places where you cannot do and say what you do here in America. Some people say, oh, well, it's getting to that point. Not yet. It's not to that point. But I tell you what, if you keep doing a lot of violence, there's a lot of people who'll say, well, I'll put up with losing some of my rights just to keep the violence down. Because people want to live. They don't want to be in fear. So they'll give up some of their stuff. We already did it with 9/11, with the 9/11 at what's that? At Patriot Act. We did that already. Obama did it with the tracking your phone calls. So it's not just a Democratic and a Republican thing. It's a people thing, folks. It's a people thing. And it saddened me that the news is not what it used to be. It doesn't give you this this way and it doesn't give you that way. They don't let you have the opinions like they used to do in the old days. They want to hear, they only want you to hear what they want to say. They can't they can't do where they say, well, man, I want it my way, but I like a little bit of that other person's way. How can I fit that into my situation? Which we supposed to do and which we've been doing, but it's getting a little out of hand. So what I'm saying is you can protest in Minnesota, but when you start and saying that we want to get rid of ICE or whatever, some people disagree with that. You know, that's fine. That's what America is. But when you start throwing rocks, getting in people's faces, spitting, doing all kinds, when you become violence, they're going to react with violence. And then you're going to sit up there and say, oh, well, they have no right to shoot tear gas and all that. But you getting in their space. You're crossing the line. You can stand there and shout and do all that. But when you start throwing stuff, crossing the lines up on people's face, how would you like it if somebody just on the streets get up? You'll be running, hollering about, I just tried to defend myself because he disagreed. Look at the road rage. Same situations. I see a lot of that out there in the protests. Those people don't know how to protest. Most of them under 50 years old. They don't know what suffering is. They don't know what Jim Crow laws is. That was just another form of slavery. They don't know what that is. I had parents that was in that era. I know story. I can tell you, I can write a book about it, the stories. A lot of them, their grandparents didn't couldn't drink out of the water fountain. Their grandparents wasn't scared that somebody might come in, the Ku Klux Klan or some other Nazi group or any white person down there can do anything to you, and the police and none of that they'll just lock you up or hang you. They never experienced none of that. Those people, a lot of them that's protesting. And a lot of them don't even believe in God as well. I'm just telling the truth. This is a hard-head conversation. And like I said, even if you don't believe in God, there's some point of some type of decency, folks. We think we can just do whatever we want. And a lot of our government allow that. We have made celebrities out of all these politicians, all these companies, and all these people with all this money. We think there's some type of God that whatever they say is golden. It's not. That's why we have to protest. We have to call it out. So when they show you stuff on the news, they agitate. I'm looking at that governor and all that. He's not even trying to say, well, we got to stop some of the ones that's doing violence at the officers, even though we disagree. It's not the officers, it's the law, folks. Look it up. It is a law. Now, even I disagree with some of the tactics that they're doing. See, I can say that. It's okay to say that, folks. It's really okay. That don't mean you disagree with the concept, but you disagree with some of the tactics. And you march and you vent your voice. Say you need to change some of your way. And those political leaders need to be saying that. But they antagonizing it. And you the one gonna be in jail, dead, lost with everything. They still living on their high horse, laughing. Because they're using you, folks. They're using. They're not trying to make peace. They're using you, folks. The way they sound like the United States is invading Minnesota and going to take over Minnesota. They already part of Minnesota. If the government don't give Minnesota any money, Minnesota be dead. All these states need that federal money. Half of these states don't have an economy in there to support them. That's where you get the federal dollars. A lot of these states. Where you think your welfare system come from? Federal dollars. They were just hollering about it. So while you out there marching and running around, getting in trouble, getting locked up for no major reason, do it peacefully and stop this ignorant stuff. Y'all idiots. You're not doing it the right way. The people I told you in the past, the two nonviolent people, they did it the right way. Dr. King boycotted the buses. He didn't break the bus windows. He didn't tear up the bus station. He just told everybody don't get on the bus and don't go to those houses, cleaning the white folks' houses and take care of their kids. Do you know a lot of those people say, hey, we need these nannies. We need these workers. You better let them sit in front of the bus. That's stupid. We need them. That's all you got to do, folks. All this burning up and tearing up. Same thing they did with that George Floyd stuff. Burning and tearing up stuff. You don't change nothing like that. They got more, government got more guns than you. They got more people than you. And most people want law and order, folks. They will give up some of their rights to have peace, folks. Can't nobody keep that energy up fighting every day. You can't do it. I can't do it. But I can march every now and then and protest and go to courtrooms and stuff because it's peaceful and relaxing. You ain't got to be all agitated and just saying crazy stuff. You're not going to win that way, folks. So what I'm telling you folks out there in Minnesota and all these other cities that want to protest. That's fine. I love it. I've done it. But I ain't tearing up nobody's property. I'm not hitting no officer of the law because I'm breaking the law. You know, ignorance, how you say that word? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. These are federal agents, whether you like it or not. I don't care what background they come from. You can make up any excuse. They are. And if they cross the line, and some of them do, then we'll hold them accountable. But don't stop the mission. You know what? I got a suggestion too. Like I said, some of the tactics are bad, and then you get on them that do it bad. But you can't obliterate everything. It's the law. You have to come over as a legal citizen. That's what it is. And if you don't want it to be a legal citizen, you want everybody to just come on over, then protest peacefully and change that law and say anybody that want to come over can come over. If the majority say yeah, then that will happen, folks. But it's not going to happen with you throwing bombs and fireworks and all blocking with cars and doing all this silly stuff. Those two people I named, Gandhi and Dr. King, did it with nonviolence. They did it with love. They did it with religion. They did it with peace. The American government and the British government fell down on their knees and said, what can we do to stop you from marching? That's power, folks. These people out here that's marching now, they have no power behind them because they doing this silly stuff. They doing it the wrong way. I don't think half of them believe in what they doing. They don't even know their history. They just out there just to have a big party. So think about what I said, folks. Look up the history. Think about it. You choose what you want. So when the outcome comes towards you, don't be so surprised. You can't fight fire with fire, folks. Learn your history. You have to do it in a peaceful way. That is the only way, folks. Diplomacy. Start yelling at these other countries that's take a bus. Here's the thing. Do they still run Trailways and Greyhound or whatever charter buses they got? Get one of them party buses too. I want all of y'all that's in Minnesota, half of y'all, okay, half of y'all stay in Minnesota and protest. The other half, and take some from Cleveland and all the rest of these cities. I want y'all to take a bus trip down to Mexico City, Venezuela, go to some of those African nations, go over to Iran, and help those protesters and see what happened to you. I bet you won't be coming back on those buses. This is the beauty of America that we can do this. Don't mess it up, folks. Because if you start tearing up stuff, the government gonna bring down more troops and they're gonna put you in line. You cannot win that way. You think the rich people gonna let you destroy what they got? The so-called 1% that they've been telling you that's around that runs everything? You think these big giant corporations gonna let you destroy what they got? They'll let you have a few little things, but they're gonna stop that, folks. Money talks in this world. Just being honest, folks, it's hard to have conversations. Be safe out there. Get yourself something good to eat. And remember, protest. But have a reason why you protest. And be able to, when somebody asks you why you protesting, have a logical answer. Don't have no feelings or nothing crazy. Say something like, well, I don't like the way the officers, just grabbing people off the street. Why don't they just do it in a peaceful way, like wait till they at work or something like that. Don't just grab them here and grab them there. Be more discreet about it. Do something like that. Say that. That makes sense. I'll listen to you. I may not agree with you, but I'll listen to you. That's all I'm saying, folks. Nobody tell you not to be able to protest and do all that. I love protest. Like I said, I've done it in the past. You got history what people done in the past. With all this tearing up stuff, you letting these loose cannons, and you know who the loose cannons in your group. They're gonna take advantage of it and mess up everything for those that's out there peacefully protesting. Because there's a lot of you out there that peacefully protesting. But all it takes is one rotten apple to destroy everything. And you know that. This is Hard Hat Conversations. Get yourself something good to eat. Hope you enjoyed the show. Peace.